There's a sanction to violating the law. We also should just be very clear. Look, this whole thing about asylum, there are legitimate reasons why someone would need asylum, and there have been throughout American history. But what you're seeing now is an abuse of asylum. I mean, just think about it. If you're fleeing a country, what you're supposed to do is the first time you get to safety, you claim asylum wherever that is. Instead, we've got people coming from South America, traveling through all these other countries, showing up at our southern border, entering illegally, and then claiming asylum here. That's not the way it works. And I know Chip is working on dealing with this legislatively. We'll do it through executive action where we will not entertain those claims at the southern border. We'll make it very clear to people. We'll make it very clear that while we support the idea of bona fide asylum, 90+% of these cases are not legitimate, and it's being used to be able to shoehorn them into this country against the law. So we're going to definitely do that. And to the extent you have some that are adjudicated, people can wait in Mexico for that adjudication. You don't come to the interior of the country and get a free pass. It's a lot less appetizing to make a trip like that, knowing you don't qualify in the first place and you're going to have to wait on the other side of the border before you get a decision. You will see it dry up in terms of the number of people that will want to come. I also look around, so we have people in Florida now helping. I was down, at Eagle Pass yesterday. We did a boat tour. We did the helo, but we've got a lot of our guys. We've got some of our fish and wildlife folks who do a lot on the water. We got highway patrol, and so we've put a lot of people. We've got National Guard from the state of Florida, and we believe it's important. But what I think needs to happen is, if the federal government won't do its job, the states should be permitted to send people back. That is what you need to do. And right now, and look, there have been Supreme Court decisions, so it's not like this is just something that people are making up. Basically, they say, states can't intrude on the federal government's prerogative to enforce immigration because immigration's a federal issue, and so therefore, what the feds say goes. And I don't know whether that's right or not, but if the feds have the responsibility to do immigration and they decide to just not do it, then are we just helpless and we don't have the laws enforced at all? And so I think the states have a role to play. I can tell you as president, we are going to fully deputize all state and local governments to be able to enforce immigration law. You will be able to have that authority. And we're not going to allow sanctuary jurisdictions to get away with it. I mean, you think about some of these places, cities, states, where they say, we refuse to cooperate with any type of immigration enforcement. So what'll happen is, you'll have somebody who's in the country illegally, they'll commit a serious crime, they'll serve a prison sentence. When they're done with their prison sentence, a state or a locality that's sanctuary will not notify ICE that they're getting out of prison, because if they do, ICE can take them and send them back. Instead, they release them back into the community. How is that something that's acceptable? It's not. So we're going to turn the screws on sanctuary jurisdictions. They get a lot of money. All these localities and states get a lot of money from the feds. They get grants. They get all that. We'll make sure to turn the screws so that it pays to follow the law and it doesn't pay to violate the law. And the thing, too, about this is, honestly, some of this sanctuary stuff they do is a lot of virtue signaling, right? I mean, they started doing it a lot under the Trump administration, and I think it was a way for them to say, oh, we're fighting the power, all this stuff. Well, I can tell you, we have a program to offer the transport to sanctuary. Martha's Vineyard actually had an office in its downtown that said nobody's illegal, everyone. Well, it was a refugee welcome center. I guess they've never actually served anyone there because they had 50 show up. And so think about towns down here in South Texas. If you just had 50 one day, that would be like a good day, right? And so you're in a situation where they get 50. This is one of the wealthiest enclaves in the entire world. They are a self-described sanctuary jurisdiction, and yet what did they do when they had 50 come and ask for services? They declared a state of emergency, and they kicked them off the island the next morning. So some of this stuff is, we have a country right now where we have elites that think that they should impose their vision on the rest of us, but they don't think they should have to suffer any of the consequences. I mean, can you imagine how they would feel if people were coming illegally, going through their yards in Martha's Vineyard, knocking on their windows at night? They would never tolerate that for a minute, and yet they expect you to down here because they want to impose their vision on others without having to live under the consequences of that. So that's just something that's very, very clear.